to Havenwood State Forest. And Havenwood State Forest has a lot of the presentation that I'm going to show you tonight. Havenwood State Forest is really the one of the destination points for the work that we've been doing on the Route of the Badger. So that'll become apparent as I present. But the Route of the Badger is a project of Rails to Trails Conservancy. So we're based out of DC. I live in Milwaukee. I'm the only Wisconsin employee. We also partner with the Bike Fed and with the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. And so together, we work on the Route of the Badger. My history is I grew up in Milwaukee. As soon as I graduated from Madison, went up to Alaska for 27 years, and I was the executive director of the Denali Education Center. And then back in 2010, 2009, came back. My parents were 90 years old, so my wife and I came back and moved in with them. And during that time, I got a job working for the Urban Ecology Center in Washington Park, where I was the branch manager. And so while the branch manager, I got introduced through Washington Park Partners to the 30th Street corridor and how it was this rail corridor, and wouldn't it be cool if there was a trail next to it. I also heard from a friend of ours, Mike and I, from Munir, who said, wouldn't it be cool if that was a big moat, just like Vienna? And I was like, wow, that's out there. But worked there for 4 years, then went back to Alaska, and I worked for the Iditarod sled dog race for 2 years as their chief operations officer. So then, after that, came back and got the job with Rails to Trails Conservancy. Rails to Trails, founded in 1986. We've got 160,000 members. There's regional offices. Fortunately, we have one here. But really, it was founded on the premise of old railroad corridors that were no longer operating. And so what happened to those corridors? Well, the tracks were removed and they were perfect for trails. So rails to trails. And so we have helped to build over 22,000 miles of rail trails throughout the country. And we've got about 9,000 miles that are currently in the works. And now there's a new phenomenon called rail with trail. So that's an active rail line with a trail next to it. So when we talk about the 30th Street corridor, that's a rail with trail because it's an active rail line, but it would have a trail next to it. Currently, throughout the country, there's over 400 rail with trail segments. So this is not a new phenomenon, and the railroads, when you negotiate with them, they make it sound like this has never been done before. Well, it has. And so we had to do the research to figure that out, though. So the Route of the Badger is a trail connection effort. So we're looking at the 7 southeast counties of Wisconsin and trying to connect the existing trails to each other to create a network. Well, we're doing this all over the country in 8 different areas that Rails to Trails is leading. They're also doing a project called the Great American Rail Trail, and it's 3,700 miles long, goes through 12 states, and it's over half completed. So it's basically connecting the existing trail infrastructure to each other. There's 120 segments that have to be built out. Some of these states are just champions and have been just going gangbusters on it because they totally get the concept. And eventually, we would like to hook up, this is us, we want to hook up to the Great American Rail Trail. Because we see a nation of trails. That's really the vision of Rails to Trails. But here's the Route of the Badger. In the Route of the Badger, you can kind of see the red lines are the existing trails. So we've got the Hank Aaron over here that Melissa just mentioned. And this orange line right here, if it's orange, that means it's a planned trail. It's on somebody's map. And this is the 30th Street corridor. And this right here is Havenwood State Forest. Thus, from Havenwoods all the way down to the Hank Aaron. So essentially, it would create a loop, a 17-mile loop around the city. And look at something else here. You know, there's quite a few trails in here, but on the north side of Milwaukee, there's not one. It's a literal trail desert. So here's a close-up of Milwaukee, and this is the map from 2019. So it's not updated fully because a lot of these, or some of these orange lines have turned to red, meaning that the planned trails have actually been built. So that's a good thing. So let's see here. I think this will work. It worked. Okay. So this is the map. And I'll just kind of briefly go into it.
I think we need to put that.
Ah, okay. It's working here, it's just not working there. Okay, here it is. Okay. A second. Ah, okay. Angela.
Yeah, do you want me to turn your name for?
Here, maybe, I don't know what's going on, why it's not. Here we go. There you are, just like that.
What's going on?
I'm trying to get the map up, and it's here, but do I have to turn it off? Because it's me, and I don't want to do it. There it is.
Yeah, it's on the slide, so when you go back, you're gonna be
Yeah,
that slide, but
I can just go to the boom. Boom. Okay, thank you so much. Okay. Now, if you look at this, these lines over here, the black lines right here, that means that it's been funded. So these are, the orange line is a planned trail, but if it's got black lines around it, that means it's been funded. So we've got all these pieces that are starting to be funded to connect to each other. And so here, this is the power line trail. This section, it's a 3.5 mile section, was built. They just got the funding for this. This is being built next year. Then they got money for a planning section or planning document to go from St. Francis all the way to West Allis here. So it would be connecting from the lake all the way to the West Dallas connector over here.
You
So,
said they got funding, who's they?
the city of Milwaukee got the planning grant here, and Greenfield is leading this section right here. So Greenfield built this section right here. But they all worked together. So St. Francis, West Dallas, Greenfield, and Milwaukee was a joint submission. So, and this section right here, this is the Beer Line Trail. And the Beer Line's been going really good. I can't grab this though. Well, now we're just gonna have to imagine. Here we go. So the Beer Line over here has been really developing, and the new I-43 interstate, the DOT added a 200-foot tunnel underneath to connect the Beer Line Trail. So it was, pardon me?
I live right next to the beer line. What's the determinant gonna be? I haven't heard that they are extending it.
Yeah, so this is Capitol Drive right here. So now there's gonna be a ramp down from Capitol Drive, from that Capitol Drive Bridge
Right.
to Port Washington. It'll go up to Home Depot, then it's gonna cross right behind Home Depot.
Okay.
So we were able to get there's a private landowner who owns 19
And
acres
then
of
it's gonna
land.
go up towards like the Bavarian Beer House and all that, probably.
It's not gonna go to the Bavarian Brew House. It's gonna go just north of Home Depot.
Okay.
And then that's where the bridge is. And then it's gonna go up to the We Energies corridor, which is on the left-hand side of the interstate. And then it's gonna cut over, and it's gonna go all the way to the 20th Street corridor. It's the We Energies corridor, where it's gonna connect to Lincoln Creek up here. And so, but then it's gonna go to 24th Place here, and then there's just a little on street, which would connect you to the 30th Street corridor. Yeah. So that's going on. Okay, let's go back. There we go. Yes. So back in 2018, why the 30th Street corridor? In 2018, Rails to Trails did a study called Reconnecting Milwaukee. And so this study was all about figuring out areas. Let me back up. Rails to Trails had a shift in priorities. And one of the legs of their stool was about equity. And they realized that throughout the country, where trails are mostly located are in wealthier areas of towns. But they started looking at poorer neighborhoods and said, what kind of trail connections are there? Well, nothing was in Milwaukee, basically on the north side. And so they started looking at that and did the Reconnecting Milwaukee study and found that Milwaukee was rich in trails. And so these green lines are, here's the Hank Aaron, here's the Oak Leaf Trail, and here's a little bit of the Beer Line Trail here. And this red line is the 30th Street corridor, and this is the extensions for the KK River Trail. But what they found through this study was that 8% of the people who were living in these neighborhoods experiencing inequality, these red areas right here, 8% of those people were within 2 miles of a trail. But if you added the 30th Street corridor and the KK River Trail, that number jumped to 66%. So all those people living in these areas right here, the green would become green and would be within 2 miles of a trail. So that really gave Rails to Trails a new path forward. And they said, let's do it. Let's do what we can to help make it happen. So, has this been done before in other neighborhoods throughout the country? The DeQuinder Cut is in Detroit, and this is a below grade, so this is an old rail line that's below grade. And so below grade means that if you're on a bridge and you look down and see the railroad tracks below you, below grade. If you're walking across the railroad tracks at grade, and if it's up above grade. So 2.5 miles, built right downtown. They converted this to this, and now it is one of the most popular trails in all of Detroit. So we actually last year took a field trip with 40 people from Milwaukee, advocates who were all about the 30th Street Corridor Trail, and we started learning about this from the people who built it. Also the Midtown Greenway. Here you can see the old railroad corridor, and it's been converted into I think they have 20,000 people on the Midtown Greenway every single day. So it's a real active commuter line for people going to work. And at the far east end, there's still rail with trail. So there's the rail line exists next to the trail. So 3 years ago, we took a trip with Milwaukee people there as well. And that really started the whole vision for a lot of our primary partners. And here, actually, we have an expert in the crowd, Melissa Cook. Melissa, could you just say something off the top of your head with the whole development of the Hank Aaron State Trail?
Part of the inspiration for it came in the City and Menominee Valley Partners' interest in creating developable land. We were able to partner with them on that, and it also came out of a study that the DNR did to give people more access to the river, which you can't even tell what the river is. If you look at that picture on the left, there's the river on the right, but on the left it looks like it's all train track. And that's because that was about a 200-acre rail yard, historic rail yard. But you were talking about proximity to the trail. By doing the Hank Aaron State Trail, we were able to get people within a 400,000 people within a 15-minute bike ride of the trail. And a lot of those people have economic challenges or people of color. It really was the inspiration for getting people out healthier, having access to water, and having access to green spaces. And that was all done through just tremendous partnerships with city, businesses, and as you said, this is not rocket science. It's been done elsewhere, but there has to be a will and the money to get it done.
And you can't stop. You can't stop.
And it takes a long time.
Trails take time. And the reason they take time is because who owns the land? The railroads. The railroad owns the land, and they don't want you on it. And so you have to work with the railroads in order to leverage a way to get them to want to do this. The only way that they'll want to do this is through money. And so there's a variety of different strategies that we're working on to help them see the light. And it's frustrating sometimes because they really don't want to talk to you ever. And you know, you have to go to the top. And so Tony Evers has seen my presentation. He has committed to working with the railroad to get them to yes, but that took 7 years in order to get to that point. So, you know, it's really just building the the movement, and it's really building the movement of all the businesses and nonprofits and residents of the area, yes.
I would think that the railroads might be happy to get rid of a maintenance headache and get rid of the land if they aren't using it anymore, but maybe they have an attitude that, gosh, we own this land now, we don't know the future, we might use it. What's their attitude?
They own it, and they're currently operating on it. But it's only a few trains per week. It's a max speed of 20 miles per hour. It's basically using, right around Capitol, you can see all those train cars parked next to each other. And then down in Menominee Valley, they're parked next to each other. So it's basically an area where they park rail cars as well as deliver to Molson Coors still. And Talgo is a manufacturing, they manufacture rail cars. So they're still operating, and we want to encourage that. We don't want it, we want it all to live together, because an operating railroad is potentially really good for business with those businesses that are along the corridor. There's so many that are abandoned right now.
So there's a difference between an abandoned rail
Yeah.
line and one that's
And active, yeah,
So
Okay.
Willie, it's kind of, along with his question,
yeah,
the rail corridor with sometimes is 200 feet wide.
yeah,
I don't know where it is in this particular instance.
about 100.
But is the goal to get access or an easement on just a portion of that, correct? So that they could continue to run
Yeah.
active rail on
Correct.
there?
Yes,
Which is completely different than most of the rail-to-trail projects that are done in the United States. An entity is buying the whole corridor, or it remains a rail corridor in perpetuity even if the state buys it.
correct.
If there is ever an absolute need, the railroad can get it back.
Right. And so there's two options there. One is to work with the railroad and to get an easement, just like you said. Then you build the trail next to it, and you have to negotiate with the railroad in order to make it safe. And the second one is for the state to buy the railroad corridor. And it would start right here. This is taken off of the Blue Mound Avenue Bridge. So if you look down, so Molson Coors is right here, and Harley is beyond it. But it's this turn right here, this is the Wisconsin Avenue Bridge, okay? And so it starts right here at that connection point. That's where the 30th Street corridor starts, and the railroad owns it all the way up to Hampton Avenue. After Hampton, and all the way north, that's all owned by the state already. So the state has got 600 miles of train track. So this is not unusual for them to purchase a corridor. So my personal opinion is that the state should just buy it, so take the railroad out of it altogether. But, you know, it would probably cost $15 million, even though they probably got it for $1 million. But that's good business for them. It's the challenge. So here's the rail corridor. I'm going to take you on a little tour. So here's the stadium. This is off of the Highland Bridge. And so these are inactive lines right here. So but the trail would actually have to be on this side, because these are all invasive species, and it's quite wide right here. So you could cut down a lot of that, and you would have to do that just to provide a safe environment for a trail. And a lot of these spaces here are just totally overgrown. Lots of illegal dumping happen down here. So it's an opportunity to really clean it up. And here's Harley Davidson over here. And Harley Davidson, they're building right now, I don't know, have any of you seen Davidson Park? Do you know about it? You see it, Mike? So they're building this giant amphitheater basically in their parking lot. And so they're converting their space, their campus, into a giant park area called Davidson Park. And so they're very interested in connecting with the corridor and the trail because they want to create a space of activity and health and community connection.
Probably also why they want to do Harley Days annually now instead of every 5 years.
Could be. And so this is underneath that Highland Avenue Bridge, and we found the drawings from 2004 when this bridge was built. And right here, it said future bike path.
Can you tell us which direction we're looking?
This is north, this is going east. So this is the Highland Avenue Bridge, which goes north-south. Yeah. Okay, I'm not over yet.
Yeah.
Great. And so if we look here, we're looking south here, it seems like it's a natural space. This is walking on the railroad corridor. These bridges that go throughout the southern end, they've got this divider space right here, and this is perfect space it's about 20 feet wide for a trail right there. This is the old Esther Paint. They've since torn that down and built apartment complexes here. Graffiti underneath the bridges. There's lots of concrete and opportunity for art, for community art on those bridges underneath. And what we've found as we go around the country is that the more that you embrace graffiti and local art, the more vibrant it becomes. So we just put, supply paint, work with artist groups, work with the community. So this is the North Avenue Bridge looking north. So this is We Energies right here. But there's lots of space over here on this side. And you can see this is still below grade, but right here, it becomes at grade and then starts going above grade. This is the community within the corridor. Hugh Elamine was the lead developer here, and he chose this spot. He went all over the country looking at different places that were along trails. And so his favorite was the Atlanta Beltline, but he went to the High Line in New York, went throughout the country looking at different trails. And when he found out about the 30th Street corridor, he really embraced that and chose this area, one of the reasons being the 30th Street corridor and the potential for that trail. Here's Villard Avenue, getting a little closer. On the left-hand side, there's plenty of room there. There's about 30 feet of room. And it would come up here on this left-hand side. This is really interesting. The railroad says you cannot walk across our railroad tracks. And here the sidewalk goes directly to the railroad tracks. Goes across the bridge, this is the other side.
Oh.
But the reality is, there's no traffic on this rail corridor. And now we're getting close here. So we recognize here, this would be the end point for the 30th Street Corridor Trail. You know, what a great spot to bring your families. Here you can go for a walk, you could connect to the 30th Street Corridor Trail, and then you go south. This is a great spot when I do tours of the 30th Street Corridor. We always start at Haven Woods, and we always get out and we do a little walk. And they're like, I didn't even know this place existed. Have you heard that one before?
Willie, does the train track actually come through Haven?
No, it's on the far west side.
Really long side?
Yeah, far west side. So there would have to be a connection to the trail system there. So that would have to be worked out with the state. So here's looking south. Now we're jumping way back to the North Avenue Bridge. And this is a business called 3041. Maybe you've seen that before. But we did a couple of renderings just for fun. So look at it here. Look at it here. So that's essentially how it could look. It would be a big ADA ramp all the way down, and it would be a divided bike lane and a single area for walking, running, skating. And this is from down below, but you can see how close that railway is. It's fairly close. But you'd have a fence next to it, you'd have it all lit up, and it would be a transportation corridor for sure. So that's me. If you want to hear more about it, that's my email right here and my phone number. If you know anybody that would like to learn about this, I'd be happy to come and speak to you or to other groups. That's all I got. Any questions?
Trying to envision the riding next to the train and active rail
Yeah.
line, is that's closer than that little spur, the KK River Trail where you're along?
No, it's, you know, the difference with that though is there's a little bit of a hill on the KK River Trail. So it's right there. It just seems like it's a little more divided because of that natural barrier. The other difference is that they actually have trains.
Right.
Yeah. And so this rail corridor basically isn't used very often. And so, so we started looking at these railway trails throughout the country. This is a Class 2 designated rail spur. A Class 1 means that, so basically trains can go up to 20 miles per hour. That's the max speed. Class 1, they can go 70 miles per hour. There are plenty of Class 1 railways with trails right next to them, that run actively with Amtrak lines. So this is okay. It's gonna work. Yes.
Go back to the screen with your name and number so we can put it in our phone.
Sure.
please? Thanks.
And did you say that this is gonna connect both the south and the north with other trails?
Yeah, it'll connect on the south, right by the stadium. That's where the Hank Aaron State Trail is.
Okay.
So it would go, there's a spur currently that goes just on the east side of the Menominee River.
Okay.
And then it goes up to Bud Selig Drive. The stadium's literally right there. And then it goes on 44th. Well, that land that's right there on the east of 44th is owned by Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewer District. And they have already said yes to putting the spur on their land. And the new plan that the DOT just did has it on their land. So that would be the first kind of connection that would go north. all the way up to Blue Mound. And then it would have to go on street, and then it could start. That's the hardest part, is just right where Miller Coors is, because it's gonna take some bridging, and it's gonna be money. And here at Silver Spring, because Silver Spring's really hard to get over.
Well, and actually, if we could get it onto this property, the easiest way to bike, it's a little bit dicey out here on Sherman Boulevard, but when you get down to Mill Road, they've got a paved bike lane right parallel to Mill Road. And you can take that right down to get to the open field and get east. So if you're creating that loop, this is here already, Silver Spring would be great, but the traffic volume on Silver Spring is much greater than Mill Road.
Well, we're looking at a bridge, so it would go through McGovern Park, because the county has said yes to that section right there. And then it would just go underneath the railroad bridge, and then it would be a loop bridge and go right over to the property here, but that's money.
So that's coming in from the south?
South of Silver Spring, yes.
Because we're bordered by two sides of pavement, which is more like a triangle.
Right.
By rail tracks.
Right.
And the north one is a little bit more active. But, so you're saying that this track that's on the
Yes, right here.
west side here
Yep,
is a different ownership than?
state,
That's owned by the state?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
And where does that go south? Over Silver
No.
Spring?
Yeah, it goes right, it's right, when you go out, it's the green bridge to the right-hand side up over Silver Spring.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it's too narrow, though, to have a trail next to that bridge. So you'd have to do a separate bridge. Yes?
I heard you do this presentation a while back, probably, might have been the Urban Ecology Center in Washington Park, I'm not sure. And it may have even been pre-pandemic,
Oh.
I'm not sure. But I'm wondering what's been happening in the last few years.
A lot, well, all
Is
those.
it land acquisition, planning?
All those, it was unfortunate that I couldn't navigate that map because there are a lot of different projects throughout the 7 counties that have been funded and have been built. And so we just updated the map recently, and I think we've throughout the 7 counties, it's been close to 30, 35 miles that have been built just in the last 5 years. So that's quite a bit.
So you work on a lot of different projects, not just
Yeah, I was just focusing on 30th Street, so, on this presentation, so.
Where do we access that map?
I'm sorry?
That map you said was online?
Yeah, just go to the Route of the Badger with Rails to Trails, and there's a link to the map in there.
So you're involved with the beer line trail?
Yes, I am.
Because that one just came out, that one popped.
Yeah, it is, it's something else.
It's beautiful, the artwork and stuff on there.
Yeah.
Here's it's working.
I can move the map.
Oh, yeah. Just go out now. So all these black lines are all funded projects right here. Here, all this in downtown, right here. This is gonna connect the KK River Trail. If you wanna pull out.
More?
Yeah, pull out more. This is a section up in Ozaki County, right here. Sections have been built here and down in here.
And where exactly is Haven Woods on this map?
Haven Woods is right here. You can't really see
Okay.
it, but it's right here. If you pull out one more. Yeah, this one we worked on for 7 years. And this was an acquisition. This is the White River State Trail right here. Well, this 11-mile corridor was owned by Canadian Pacific, and it was for sale. And we were working with Racine County to try to purchase that. And so DNR came through. There was a $1 million appropriation from the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund, which was championed by Speaker Robin Voss. And we were still $500,000 short. And so, because it was 1.5 million for 11 miles, it was 10.6 miles. And at the last moment, Racine County found a real estate acquisition fund, found $500,000. They were trying to wait to see if we could come up with that $500,000. And so then they had the money, gave it to the states, and then they purchased that for $1.5 million. And it was funny because I was communicating a lot with your old colleague Bridget Brown, and it came down to the last day, the last hour, when they signed the deal. It was on a Friday afternoon at 4:30. And we were like, why do we have to sweat like this, you know? But the deal went through. Now it's a matter of getting the planning dollars and construction. And the woman who was championing it from Racine County retired. And so it's really set the project back as far as having that real champion. Like the Hank Aaron State Trail, Melissa Cook was the champion. She made that thing happen. And so.
But it was also, thank you for that, but it was also, we had the business community through the Menominee Valley Partners. That was huge, because I could cry and whine all day long, and without the business community saying, let's do this, that's fine. And we argued with the state of Wisconsin and the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County argued for 5 years who was gonna pay for development on the first section.
Sure.
And so what you're going through with Racine, you know, is what happens all the time.
Yeah.
Everybody looks to the other entity to pay for it. And it's, you know, now I'm not a DNR employee, thank God, and I can tell you that the surplus that the state has and that the legislature and Robin Voss is patting himself on the back for is because they did budget cuts. My budget for the Hank Aaron State Trail was 70% less when I retired than when I started. And so you wonder where that surplus came from? That's where it came from. And so for them to talk about giving everybody a tax cut again makes me choke hard. And the legislatures listen to the people, they listen to the voters, and you have to be vocal if you want this stuff to happen. Because everybody wants a tax cut. Everybody thinks that's great. But that money just didn't fall from the heavens. It came out of some other resources. And they don't fund trails. They don't fund parks anymore. And this is where the argument comes in. Every one of those political jurisdictions is looking at the other one to pay for all this stuff.
Well, there was something that happened here. Right here, the Seven Waters Trail, that's where Robin Voss lives. So, I mean, it's really, you know, I found in my time in the 7 counties that trails are pretty perfect. And so I speak to lots of different people, and people want trails, they just do. Doesn't matter who we're speaking to, they want them.
And we've got the proof that it builds economically.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, these really long-term pay for themselves. The
Yeah.
communities want them there.
Yes.
So really, what is the next step of driving up support for the 30th Street corridor? Like
Well,
practically speaking, what do we do?
Well, I would love to have your name and your email. And we just went through a pretty excruciating grant application. Now, this was called a Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods Grant. It was spearheaded by Representative Evan Goyke. And it was spurred because of a visit that we did in Washington DC this past July. And we met with USDOT and they said, you should apply for this grant. Why? Because it was 100% funded. There was no match. So there's no 20%. Typically a federal grant is 80% feds, 20% whoever is applying for it. And so Evan got the Wisconsin DOT to be the submitters. We did everything. We did the budget, the timeline, the cost benefit analysis. We had all the maps. We wrote the entire narrative. And at the last minute, the last day, the railroad pulled out, would not include their letter of support. And that would have included money for the railroad to upgrade their freight rail service. So that's why they were playing the game in the first place, but they were really just deflecting. Anyway, when the governor found out about that, he was not happy about it. So that's what our next steps are. I mean, we're really at that point where it's like the governor's got to come and have a conversation with Wisconsin and Southern Watco, the parent
So
company.
continued pressure on our politicians to keep it on that forefront.
Yeah, I think it's on their forefront, but if I have your name and your email, if we need you to send a letter, I would love to have that as backup ammunition. Yes?
If you had to speculate and look into the future, can you imagine when this is really all going to come together, or?
Yeah. I would hope that we would have some sort of a deal in the next 2 years. So going through that grant process, even though it was painful that it never went through, we've got so much information now because we did it all. And so now I think we also worked with USDOT. We got $800,000 for an engineering survey from all the way from Haven Woods down to the Hank Aaron. So we do have some seed money to get the engineering study done. And Wisconsin Southern agreed to that. So, steps are moving forward. It's just taking a little time.
So a couple of years to get started.
Well, a couple of years for the railroad to say yes.
Yeah, the next half of my question was going to be, what you can do, but I would ask that, and so
Yeah.
we'll do it for you.
Names and emails would be great.
Can we give the sign up to him? Anybody got any objection to that? We can give you the emails.
Great. Love it.
Have you also talked to state Wisconsin Sierra Club chapter at all about this stuff?
I have not.
Because that would be something, when you get to the point of trying to mobilize,
Well, I mean, we're mobilizing,
I mean,
so.
for, they often have various campaigns of write your law.
Sure, I would love to meet whomever I need to meet. That'd be great. Yes?
Have you ever done a presentation to Children's Hospital or the Milwaukee Medical College?
No, I
Because
haven't.
they have been doing studies to show the benefits to children from being outdoors. And this provides this massive connection to a huge population that is considered an at-risk population.
Yeah.
And I would think having a letter of support from them would be very, very
It'd be
helpful.
great, yeah.
Angela may have the name of the person who is working on that study, and that would be good.
Okay, thank you. I'll talk to you later about that. Okay, well,
Jan,
thank,
just pointed out that Southeast Gateway to the group of the Sierra Club would be someone to talk to down in the Kenosha area.
Hmm,
Kenosha, Walworth.
pardon me?
Walworth County also. The
Yeah.
same Kenosha, Walworth, I believe.
Walworth has some cool projects right here. It's the electric railroad. And so it's 11 miles. And you'll see that everything here basically connects to something, but this one was so cool that we added it to the, because normally if it wouldn't go all the way down here, we wouldn't have it, because we want loops. And so these just end because they're out, we're just showing that they continue. But this one, the electric railroad owns that corridor. And so now, and I think they've got a 200-foot corridor. So they have plenty of room to do a trail next to their rail line. So wouldn't it be fun to be able to bike for 11 miles, then get on the train and take that back? So.
Could you just review, at what stage is this whole process, got this orange again?
The orange is planned, so it's on someone's plan, like here's a Kenosha County, this is on their Kenosha County plan, the orange lines. And then the red are the existing trails.
Okay,
Yeah.
planned, but not funded yet. The
They're,
orange-
yes,
Yes.
yeah, but if they got black lines around them, that means that they've been funded. Yeah,
So it looks like there's going to be a nice, looking on this plan, going straight northwest from Haven Woods.
yeah, that's
a different project.
that's phase 2 of the 30th Street
Okay.
corridor, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, great questions. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your presentation. We're going to be walking things.
In your years in Alaska, did you ever meet a guy from Milwaukee by the name of Mel Buchholz? He was with the United States Forest Service or something like that.
No.
Oh, I thought
You
maybe
gotta
you'd
ask,
Thank you
right?
all for coming tonight.
somehow find another Milwaukee.
Yeah, right.
Well, okay. I just asked because he's my cousin.
What?
Thank you.
Are you kidding me? Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, a former Sierra Club member. So thank you for presenting, and then we're also gonna give you your membership to Sierra Club. I'll need some information from you, but I'll send you an email about it.
Do you want to get these?
Yes. Some of the people, they don't ask for them, so I look for those. They come so often that, and then are you okay with me sending out your PowerPoints? Okay. Alright, thank you.